14, verses 25 to 33. Let us all give ear to the word of God. A large crowd was following Jesus. He turned around and said to them, "If you want to be my disciple, you must, by comparison, hate everyone else, your father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even your own life. Otherwise, you cannot be my disciple. And if you do not carry your own cross and follow me, you cannot be my disciple. But don't begin until you count the cost. For who would begin construction of a building without first calculating the cost to see if there is enough money to finish it? Otherwise, you might complete only the foundation before running out of money, and then everyone would laugh at you. They would say, 'There's the person who started that building and couldn't afford to finish it.' Or what king would go to war against another king without first sitting down with his counselors to discuss whether his army of 10,000 could defeat the 20,000 soldiers marching against him? And if he can't, he will send a delegation to discuss terms of peace while the enemy is still far away. So you cannot become my disciple without giving up everything you own." This is the word of God. Our message for today is entitled "More Than We Ever Imagined," and will be delivered by our very own pastor, Lakis.
Good morning, everyone. The grace and peace of Christ be with all of us today. Well, the summer holidays are finally over for all of our school students. This past week, lots of students have gone back to school, met their new teachers, and started on a new year. And as for our senior high students, well, I know that some of them have also taken this chance to start to worry. That's because they know that if they want to get into a good university, if they want to succeed on the future path that they've chosen for themselves, then this year there's going to be a lot of work to do. Just sitting down now at the start of the school year and looking at how much there is to do, how much needs to be done, that can be kind of frightening. It can seem even impossible. There's just so much to manage. I know that for those of you about to start your first year of university, the feeling there is very much the same. You've gone up now to a higher level, and now there are higher expectations, greater workloads, more to manage, more pressure, even more to study, even more to achieve. I remember being in that situation too and thinking, how am I going to manage so much? And even though it's the start of the school year, of course, it's not just school students, not just our students who are facing pressure. We all do. All of us face so much pressure every day. We go to work and also face huge challenges there. There are long lists of tasks and responsibilities to manage, huge quotas of customers to be won, new stores and branches to open. There's just so much to be done, new project goals to be met. So how often at work do we walk out of work meetings and we just think to ourselves, how are we supposed to manage all of that? How are we supposed to get everything done? We stand at the beginning of something new. We see that huge mountain in front of us, that huge mountain of responsibilities and tasks, and we think to ourselves, how can we climb that? How can we manage that? And of course, then we start to worry. We worry to ourselves, can I really do it? Can I really manage it all? I think these are the same questions, these are the same doubts that most of us have all of the time, but these are the same questions and same challenges and feelings that also lie at the center of the Bible reading for today. The story there, the Bible story, well, it seemed to start so well. It seemed to start very positively. In verse 25, we see Jesus surrounded by a great crowd of people. They're so eager to be there. They're so eager to be with Jesus. They're so enthusiastic to join him. So they surround him on the road. They want to follow him. They want to join the journey and walk together with Jesus. And really, isn't that great? Isn't that great to see? Imagine that happening today. Imagine having huge crowds of people so eager to be close to Jesus and so eager to join him and follow him. That really sounds fantastic. It's really the type of wonderful thing that so many church leaders and so many church pastors pray to see happening. To see crowds and crowds of people flock to Jesus and to be willing to walk together with him. But strangely in this story, it doesn't look like Jesus is very positive about this. It doesn't look like Jesus is very positive about the crowd's enthusiasm. Surrounded by so many new and eager people, we kind of expect Jesus to try and win them over, to try to win them all as new followers. We would expect Jesus to stand up in front of them and to give a really passionate speech to stir them up, to stir up the crowd, to inspire them, to stand there and speak to them and boost their enthusiasm even more. But strangely, Jesus doesn't do this. Instead, he does the opposite. He seems to discourage them from joining him. He challenges their enthusiasm, and he tries to calm them down. I can imagine a lot of our friends here who work in marketing or politics just shaking their heads at this. This is just strange and even stupid. If you're building a customer base or if you're encouraging people to vote for your party, the last thing that you want to do is dampen people's enthusiasm. The last thing you want to do is turn them away or calm them down. I imagine even a lot of church pastors find Jesus' actions here really unusual and even foolish. This isn't a good way, it seems. It doesn't seem to be a good way to win people to the faith. I think we find Jesus' actions so strange today. I think we find them so strange because, honestly, we're not very used to this kind of honesty from other people. Of course, Jesus wants people to be close to him. Of course, that's the case. Of course, Jesus wants people to be enthusiastic about their faith. And he wants people to follow him and to be his disciples. He wants all of those things. He just isn't willing to trick people into doing that. And that's what seems so strange to us. Because in our own lives, we're very used to people trying to do that. We're so used to salespeople who tell us lots and lots of great things about their product and push us to quickly sign a contract, make that first payment, and not to ask too many questions. It's only later, once we've signed the contract, once we've paid our money, that's when suddenly we find out that, things aren't as good as the salesperson promised they would be. So how many of us have had that experience before, going and buying things and then afterwards just regretting what we've done? Politicians, they often do the same thing. We have that experience as well. In the run-up to the elections, they always make lovely promises to us, give us vague answers, and then encourage us quickly to go and choose them on election day. But then as soon as the election is over, things change so quickly then. Our friends in England complained about this with the recent Brexit vote, which I know some of you were following as well. They had politicians promising the people that, if they voted to leave Europe, then they would give millions of pounds every week to support the health insurance system. And then on the very next morning after the vote, just hours after winning, the politicians came out and said, no, actually that's not going to happen. We don't need our English friends to tell us about these problems, though. We see a lot of them in Taiwan as well. Today we're so used to people lying to us or trying to hide the truth from us, trying to make things seem so rosy and great to get us to come along. For many marketers and politicians, the plan is simply to attract people however you can, if that means hiding the truth a little, skipping the hard parts, not really giving clear answers, at least not until people have signed that contract or paid their money or voted for you, well, that may be what we need to do. But the result of that is that we end up feeling cheated. We feel cheated so often. Because how can we make important decisions about our lives? How can we make these important decisions if we don't have really clear and honest information? How can we make decisions if we don't really understand what those choices are going to mean, what they're going to involve? Sadly, we've even seen some churches that take this approach as well. Just before the summer, so just a few weeks ago, I had the chance to meet one of our local Taoist priests. He's a very nice guy, and we went to dinner together and we spent some time chatting and talking together. But at one point during dinner, he really surprised me. He told me that he too is also a Christian, just like me. I was a little confused, and I said to him, "But you're a Taoist priest." He said, "Yeah, of course, but I'm also a Christian." He told me how back when he was younger, a church group had come to his university to do a campus outreach activity. And it was during the lunch break on that day. So that church group, they stood in front of the students and they spoke a little bit about Jesus. And then they said that anyone who wanted to be a Christian could close their eyes, raise their arm and repeat a prayer. And he was very happy to do that. And then after lunch, he went back to his classes. So today, even though he was now a Taoist priest, he was also happy to count himself as a Christian too. And as he told me this story, I remember thinking two things. First, I don't think that's how it works. And second, that somewhere in Taipei there was a church outreach group that went back to their home church and proudly told them about all the students that they had encouraged to come to Christ and be Christian. Now, of course, sometimes those outreach activities really are very helpful. They're really great. But in this case, we saw exactly the problem that Jesus was worried about here. That some people may want to join Jesus, may want to come along, but not really understand what that means.